The bike is critical, but so am I. That is not feedback. That is a confession with telemetry behind it, and it lands on one name harder than anyone else in that garage, Marc Marquez. The reigning champion walked into 2026 with a title, a factory machine, and a shoulder that never signed off on either. 3 rounds in, he has 0 Sunday podiums, 36 points of deficit, and a pattern that no amount of sprint speed can hide. He is fast on Saturday, he is visible on Sunday. And then the race moves without him. Thailand offered the cleanest version of the damage. He had the pace, he had the podium, then the bike failed him with a wheel issue, and the standings took the points anyway. Brazil stripped the illusion cleaner. He had the speed to fight, the laps to close, and a rider on a satellite Ducati who simply finished the job better. Fabio Di Giannantonio did not outshine him. He outlasted him. That is the difference between speed and control, and Marc is currently paying for it with positions that used to belong to him by right. America made it visible. The long lap penalty pushed him into traffic, but traffic is not new to Marc Marquez. What is new is what happens after he clears it. He told his own crew the truth. If the first 3 laps are right, he fights for the win. They are not right. He loses time overtaking Bagnaia, loses time overtaking Enea. And by the time the rhythm stabilizes, the race is already owned by someone else. That gap is not dramatic. It is fatal. The race does not wait for recovery riders anymore. Francesco Bagnaia had the same machine and led a sprint. Then he disappeared on Sunday and finished 10th. 2 champions, 1 factory, 0 control when it matters. Ducati can talk about setup windows and front-end feel, but the result is cleaner than any explanation. Their best riders are arriving late to races they used to dictate. That is not a bad weekend. That is a system leaking time in the only phase that counts. Aprilia did not wait. Marco Bezzecchi led every lap in Brazil, led every lap again in America. 121 consecutive laps at the front. Nobody touched him. That is not pace. That is control over sequence, and it exposes Ducati's problem without a single word from Noale. While Marc is overtaking his way back into relevance, Bezzecchi is already building gaps that do not come back. Spike it properly. The paddock will tell you Marc's issue is physical. Ducati will tell you the bike is critical. Both are true, and both are incomplete. The wound is not the shoulder or the chassis. The wound is timing. Marc Marquez used to own the first phase of a race. Now he negotiates it. That shift is costing him wins before lap 5, and nothing he does after can buy them back. Davide Tardozzi defended him, pointed to the shoulder, asked for patience. The standings did not. 36 points down after 3 rounds is not a crisis in headlines. It is a locked deficit in a season where the leader is not making mistakes. Bezzecchi is not leaving doors open. Marc is arriving at doors that are already closed. The trapdoor is simple, and it does not care about reputation. If the first 3 laps decide the race, and Marc Marquez cannot execute the first 3 laps the way he used to, then every Sunday becomes a recovery mission against riders who are no longer making recoverable mistakes. The speed is still there. The instinct is still there. The last millimeter is not. Ducati did not accidentally build a difficult bike. They built a machine that demands the exact phase Marc Marquez is currently losing, and they knew it before the season began. Start where nobody in red wants to stay too long. Pre-season. Sepang showed it in numbers, not opinions. Ducati had speed. Alex Marquez set the benchmark. Bezzecchi sat right behind. Marc was within range. Bagnaia was there. The lap times were not the problem. The race simulations were. The Ducati needed a clean front-end load, a stable entry, a rider who commits early and lives with it. That is the mechanism. The bike rewards riders who lock the first phase. It punishes riders who arrive half a beat late. Marc arrived half a beat late. Not because he forgot how to race, because the body that used to commit before the data finished loading is now verifying before it commits. He said it himself before the season, more body than risk. That sentence sounded like maturity. It is a structural mismatch with a bike that only pays out if you risk first and calculate later. Ducati did not adapt bike to him. They built a bike that exposes whether he can still do that. Thailand proved the first piece. He had the pace, but the opening phase never locked. He needed recovery laps to enter the fight. The wheel failure ended the race, but the mechanism was already visible. He was not dictating. He was catching. Brazil confirmed it with a different outcome. He had the speed to match the front. He did not have the position to control it. Di Giannantonio did not beat him on talent. He beat him on sequence. He started in the right place, stayed there, and removed the need to recover. America removed the excuses. The long lap penalty put him in traffic, but the damage did not come from the penalty. It came from the time it took him to re-enter the race. He overtakes Bagnaia, he overtakes Enea. Each move costs tenths. Each tenth moves the leader further away. By the time he reaches clear air, the race leader is not in a fight. He is in control. Marc is not losing time in corners. He is losing the race in the act of rejoining it. Bagnaia sits in the same system and confirms the same failure from a different angle. He led a sprint at Coda, clean air, control. Then the Grand Prix turned, and he finished 10th. The front end went, the entry confidence dropped, and the race collapsed. Two champions, same machine, same phase collapsing. That is not rider error. That is the cost of a design that narrows the window to a point where one missed phase destroys the rest. Now watch who benefits. Marco Bezzecchi does not fight the Ducati. He bypasses the problem. He takes the lead on lap 1, removes traffic from the equation, and runs races from the front where the Aprilia's control profile lives. 121 consecutive laps. Lead is not just dominance, it is the absence of the phase. Ducati is struggling to execute. He never has to recover. He never pays the entry cost. He turns the race into a sequence that only he is allowed to write. Spike it harder. Ducati's critical bike is not failing Marc. It is revealing him. The machine demands a first-lap commitment that his current physical state negotiates instead of executes. The paddock calls it adaptation. The data calls it delay. And delay in a grid where the leader is perfect is the same as defeat. The official story will keep splitting it. Bike problem here, physical problem there. Two separate issues. That is convenient. It is also wrong. The mechanism is the overlap. A bike that compresses the margin for error into the first 3 laps, paired with a rider whose current condition expands the time he needs to find his limit. Those two curves cross at exactly the point where races are decided and the cost is already on the table. Marc said he could have caught Di Giannantonio without the time lost overtaking. That is not a hypothetical, that is the admission. The win was not lost at the end. It was lost in the act of getting back to where the race had already moved on. The trapdoor is sitting open and Ducati can see it. If the bike only rewards riders who arrive first, and Marc can no longer guarantee arriving first without paying a physical price, then every race becomes a negotiation he cannot win cleanly. And while he negotiates, someone else is already writing the result. The verdict is already written. Marc Marquez is not losing the 2026 title in the final laps of races. He is losing it before the race begins, and Ducati built the conditions that make that loss repeatable. 3 rounds, 36 points down, 0 Sunday podiums. That is not a slow start. That is a deficit against a rider who has not blinked once. Marco Bezzecchi has led 121 consecutive laps, not defended, led. From lights out to checkered flag, 5 Grands Prix in a row, nobody has taken the front from him. That is power transfer in its cleanest form. Ducati had the fastest bike for 2 seasons. Aprilia now controls when the race actually starts. Marc's own words complete the conviction. If I get the first 3 laps right, we're in for the win. That sentence carries every unused fact in this case. Thailand. First phase not locked. Race never controlled. Mechanical failure ends what was already a recovery. Brazil. First phase not owned. Di Giannantonio occupies the podium. Marc is chasing, finishes P4 at plus 4.089 seconds. America, penalty forces traffic, overtakes cost time. Bezzecchi wins by 2.0336 seconds. Marc P5 after serving the long lap. Different weekend, same outcome. The race is gone before he arrives. Francesco Bagnaia is the second piece of evidence, not a side note. Same factory, same GP26, same collapse under Sunday conditions. Led the sprint at Coda, finished 10th in the Grand Prix. Front end confidence gone, entry compromised, race over. 2 champions, 1 machine, identical phase failure. Ducati can point at setup sheets all week. The standings point at the same number every Sunday. 0 control when it matters. Spike it where it hurts. Ducati chose a philosophy that compresses victory into the opening phase. That decision did not just build a fast bike. It selected the type of rider who can win on it right now. Bezzecchi fits it. Martin fits it. Di Giannantonio executes it. Marc, at this exact moment in his career, is fighting it. Not because he forgot how to win, because the machine requires a first lap commitment that his current physical condition taxes every time he tries to access it. David Tardozzi can defend him. The shoulder can be cited, the bike can be labeled critical. None of that moves the points. Bezzecchi sits on 81, Martin on 77, Marc on 45. That gap is not theoretical. It is the accumulation of first phases lost, one race at a time, to riders who are not making recoverable mistakes. When the leader never leaves the door open, the second rider's speed becomes irrelevant. Here is the chain that closes the case. Ducati locks a bike that rewards immediate control. Marc requires a fraction longer to reach his limit. That fraction forces him into traffic or into overtakes that cost tenths. Those tenths convert into seconds by lap 5. Those seconds place him outside the control zone. Outside the control zone, he is reactive. While he reacts, Bezzecchi builds a gap that never returns. X happened. X makes Y inevitable. Y makes Z irreversible by round 4. And the hardest hit sits in plain sight. The same Marc Marquez, who built a career on arriving before the gap existed, is now paying penalties when that instinct fires and the body cannot finish it. Coda gave the example. Lap 1 contact, long lap penalty. Old instinct, new cost. The difference between champion and contender is not speed. It is whether that last millimeter still converts risk into position. Right now, it converts into time lost. Every unused detail points to the same conclusion. Sprint wins, qualifying speed, strong pace once the tires settle. All of it real, none of it decisive. Because the championship is being decided in a window where Marc is currently negotiating instead of dictating. Ducati did not break him. They built a machine that measures exactly where he stands today, is greater than, is greater than, is greater than, is greater than, and the measurement is not flattering. So, here is the question the paddock will not ask out loud, even with the data in front of it. If Ducati knows the title is decided in the first 3 laps, and Marc Marquez knows he cannot consistently own those 3 laps without paying a physical price, why is the bike still asking him to? GP24 doesn't cover MotoGP. We cover its war.